Let's get to a story that is, really kind of shocking and very disturbing coming out of Montana. Put this up on the screen. So there was a freight train that was carrying hot asphalt and molten sulfur that derailed into a river, into Yellowstone River there in that state. Now, what it looks like happened, and NTSB is still investigating, is that actually the bridge itself collapsed. And that's what's caused this train derailment, spilling these toxic substances into the river there. This is a river that is, really relied upon both in terms of drinking water, also in terms of agriculture and irrigation. So this is, very troubling. The government does not have a great track record, and we'll get into that in a minute, of being honest about the risk to citizens of these type of toxic waste spills. Let me read you a little bit of this. They say the train cars were carrying hot asphalt and molten sulfur. Officials shut down drinking water intakes downstream while they evaluated the danger after the 6 a.m. accident. By the way, this happened on Saturday. An AP reporter witnessed a yellow substance coming out of some of the tank cars. They also have some conjecture here, and I think this was from some of the local reporting about what caused this bridge to collapse, because that's an incredibly stunning and disturbing turn of events, that this, critical part of our infrastructure could just completely crumble and collapse like this. Apparently, Yellowstone River saw record flooding in 2022. That caused extensive damage to Yellowstone National Park and adjacent towns. Apparently, there have been repeated years of heavy river flows. The high water flow translates to high forces acting directly on the pier and, importantly, on the river bottom, this expert said. You can have erosion or scour that removes support from the foundation. High forces translate to a high likelihood of a structural or foundation failure that could act as a trigger to initiate the accident. We also know that there had been an old highway bridge that cars used to traverse that paralleled that railroad bridge. And they had actually taken that old highway bridge down because it was determined to be in imminent danger of failing. So it's right alongside this railroad bridge. They had taken that one down. And now you have the railroad bridge completely collapsing. According to their reporting, not immediately clear when that bridge that collapsed was constructed or when it was last inspected. Let's go ahead, guys, and put these images up on the screen. We've got a little bit of video of someone who appears to have been driving by the accident, and then we've got some overhead drone footage. You can see a number of these freight cars collapsed into the river. You can see there that yellow substance that reporters were saying they saw spilling out into this river. Now, some of the experts have said that the type of material that spilled here shouldn't cause a problem because while it's kept in a sort of molten state within these tanker cars, once it hits the cold water, that it solidifies. So hopefully there shouldn't be much problem downstream. We will see if that is the case. Let's put these next images up on the screen so people can just get a sense of the catastrophe here. You can see just twisted metal and these freight cars collapsed into this beautiful scenic river there in Yellowstone. You can see the way that the bridge just completely collapsed and crumbled here. Thank God that no one was injured. I was thinking about the engineers who were on board this train and how terrifying and shocking this must have been for them. Thank God that no one was injured or lost their life, but still a deeply troubling situation with a lot of questions still, Saagar.
Yeah, absolutely. The issue, first of all, this is a disaster. This is one of my favorite places in the world. I love Yellowstone. It's one of the most, if anybody gets the opportunity, please do it. Also, I read a very troubling stat that the vast majority of people who visit Yellowstone don't even get out of their cars or just go to the visit. Get out of the car and walk, into non-designated, just like little wooden areas with a sign. Actually go and explore it a little bit.
But you know what?
It's one of the best places on earth.
If you're physically ready for that.
Okay,
because I've also heard horror stories of people who are not fit and don't even bring water and are wearing their, sandals, their Crocs or whatever. And they're like, let me go for a hike.
I got to give props to the National Park Service. These people they know exactly what they're doing. It's funny, like when you hike the Grand Canyon, like 3 miles in, there's a lady who's like, hey, you got enough water? You good? They're like, where are you going? You going that far? And then if you are going for it, they'll be like, you don't have enough water to do that. They're like, you should turn around. I actually literally watched that happen. So shout out to the NPS.
Yeah, for sure. I have a tragic story I won't even share, but it's important to be careful, especially when heat is involved.
Correct. Always be careful with this. The point, though, is that this is one of the most treasured national monuments national parks is an area that millions of Americans visit every year. Actually, more people are visiting it more than ever. And the problem that we have here is that the overall accountability into the railroads and to the current Rail Safety Act and the way that that is still being held up in Congress right now, mostly by conservative Republicans like Ted Cruz, as I understand it, is the main opposition
Oh, really?
to this entire thing. And it's a huge issue because the initial East Palestine derailment obviously got a lot of attention. I think it should have. But
Yeah.
the problem is that some of it is diminishing now over time. And the energy around getting the actual rail industry regulated whenever they receive billions and billions and billions of dollars in subsidies from the federal government and then still basically are allowed to operate with impunity, that's the overall problem that we still are not taking our eye, or we haven't have taken our eye off, unfortunately, as a country.
Yeah, and I have an East Palestine update that is pretty stunning that I want to get to in just a minute. But I want to say with this particular derailment, and NTSB is still investigating, so we don't have all of the answers here, but it appears this raises a lot of questions about our infrastructure and, inspections. And listen, we have long known that we have a lot of crumbling infrastructure that needs to be tended to and rebuilt. And so the fact that, in a wealthy country such as ours, that you have bridges just collapsing from, normal wear and tear it's embarrassing. It's horrifying. It's terrifying because you have no idea what is the next one to go. I mean, actually, there's a critical bridge in Tennessee crossing the Mississippi River that had to be closed on an emergency basis because engineers saw structural flaws that could lead to that collapsing. And it totally, destroyed traffic and snarled traffic there for months and months. We're just, we have really underinvested in our own basic infrastructure. And I think that's an important story out of this one as well. Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.